4 animals, 4 desperate situations. What happened to these creatures? Well, you can only imagine. In this video, we'll take you through these intense animal rescues. You'll see moments that might just change how you view people. Picture a mountain lion, majestic, powerful, free. Now imagine that same lion trapped in a truck for 20 long years. This was Mufasa's reality. Born wild in the rainforests, he was snatched as a cub and forced into a life of misery in an illegal circus. For 2 decades, Mufasa's world was limited to that rusty truck. No room to run or climb, just metal chains and confinement. He'd never felt grass beneath his paws or sun on his face. Then one day, everything changed. Police were conducting a raid on an illegal circus. They weren't even looking for animals. But as they searched, they heard a low, mournful growl coming from an old truck. When they opened that truck door, an overwhelming stench greeted them. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they saw him, Mufasa, once a proud predator, now a shadow of his former self. His muscles had wasted away. His coat was matted and dull. But when the officers locked eyes with Mufasa, they saw a glimmer of the wild spirit that had somehow survived. Getting Mufasa out wasn't easy. He was terrified and confused by the sudden light and noise. The rescue team worked slowly and carefully to secure him and transport him to a rehabilitation center. But the real challenge was just beginning. How do you help a mountain lion who's spent most of his life in chains adjust to freedom? The answer? One small step at a time. For the first time in 20 years, Mufasa was experiencing what it meant to live in the wilderness, where he truly belonged. He still had a long road ahead: physical therapy, learning to hunt, slowly expanding his territory. But that day, as this creature, who'd known nothing but chains, had taken his first taste of freedom, and he liked it. Next up, we have an equally compelling rescue story of a dog who was having a blast, chasing after a ball. But in a split second, everything changed. The dog misjudged his footing and tumbled off the pier. The dog paddled frantically, struggling to keep his head above water. People gathered, shouting for help. The dog was tiring quickly. Then, out of nowhere, came help in the form of a brave lady. The female leaped into the water. The crowd held their breath as she swam to the struggling pup's side. She positioned herself under the drowning dog and held the dog's head up, but she wasn't strong enough to pull him and herself out of water all on her own. That's when a young man on the pier stripped off his shirt and dove in after them. He stabilized the dog some more while someone on the bank had an idea. They tossed a rope and, with help from those on shore, pulled the trio to safety. We are not done with the brutality involving dogs, it seems, because next in line is Tintin's story. Born with congenitally deformed front legs, he struggled to move like other dogs. Maybe this is why his owner took the heartless decision. She drove him to a deserted road and abandoned him like trash. Confused and scared, Tintin watched as the only family he'd ever known disappeared into the distance. For 5 long hours, Tintin waited in vain. As the sun began to set, rescuers finally arrived. They almost missed him, hidden in a patch of tall grass. What they found was heartbreaking. Tintin was exhausted, thirsty, and struggling to move. At the vet, the news wasn't good. Tintin's leg condition was something he was born with. The rescuers tried everything they could think of to help him, including daily massages and scans. But progress was slow and unsteady. They started to worry if they were doing the right thing, but there was no simple fix. He was going to have to live with this deformity. Thankfully, Tintin never gave up. Then one day, a young woman visited the shelter and saw something special in Tintin. She didn't focus on his limitations. Instead, she saw a brave little dog who deserved a chance at happiness. And happy he was. From Tintin's story of survival, we move to the rugged mountains of India, where a different survival story unfolded. A curious little fox that had stepped into a poacher's trap. The clutch was so strong that her paw, initially badly injured, eventually fell off. Yet somehow she clung to life. When rescuers arrived, they were unprepared for what they found. As they approached, the fox's survival instincts kicked into overdrive. She thrashed and snarled, her eyes wild with fear and pain. Every attempt to get close sent her into a frenzy. The rescuers were stunned. This injured, starving animal still had so much fight left. The fox, running on pure adrenaline, managed to drag herself away from the rescuers. Blood dripped from her mangled leg, leaving a trail in the dirt. The rescuers knew they had to act fast before she hurt herself even more. They faced a difficult choice: let her go and hope for the best, or take drastic measures to save her. They decided to sedate her, a risky move given her weakened state, but it was their only option. Once unconscious, they rushed her to a nearby vet clinic. For days, she fought for her life as vets cleaned her wounds and battled infection. As she healed, a new challenge emerged: preparing a 3-legged fox for life in the wild. It took time and creative problem-solving, but eventually, she was ready to return to the wilds. And that's how she returned home, after days of pain and suffering. Finally.